Come to the class reunion, but only if you have a craving for terror. For nothing is more terrifying than a party given by the Redeemer. 6 people singled out and chosen for a very special reason. No matter where you turn, he is there. No matter how far you run, he will track you down. No matter how you scream, he will continue to gather the souls of those who have sinned. With the hand that bears the mark of the son of Satan, the one called the Redeemer. First, the Omen. Now, the Redeemer.
The Redeemer, aka the Redeemer, son of Satan, aka Class Reunion Massacre, is a 1978 horror movie. The movie was shot in about 4 weeks in 1976 at an abandoned military school in Staunton, Virginia. A lot of locals took part in a lot of the church scenes. In fact, the choir that is singing in the church was the actual choir that was singing there at the time. The church still stands to this day. You can go visit it. The movie is essentially about a crazed killer picking off some people that went to their class reunion, using the tropes of greed and sloth and envy in order for his reasons to kill them. It's a very strange little movie indeed, and all of the students that come back to the reunion all fit these tropes quite well. And one by one they start getting picked off by the Redeemer, played in great fashion by T.G. Finkbinder, a very underrated actor. T.G. takes on the role of the Redeemer in a lot of different ways, one being a crazed killer clown, the other being a hunter, one being seemingly death incarnate, and the other, my favorite, a bizarre Shakespearean stage actor.
You were probably wondering why I asked you here tonight.
This film stands out from other slashers mainly because of the bizarre bookends that were forced on the film by the studio. What they did was to capitalize on the success of The Omen, is they forced a little kid to be in the movie, and in the beginning he kind of just walks out of the water, grows 2 thumbs, has some sort of bizarre connection with the Redeemer, and at the end of the film loses his 2nd thumb and returns to the water. Very strange indeed. This is not by any stretch of the imagination a perfect film. It has a lot of problems. It is very much a product of its time. There are things in the movie that just don't make sense, and it doesn't really get going until you get to the school and until the Class Reunion Massacre actually hits and starts. Then it becomes a lot of fun. One more thing that makes this movie stand out from other slashers of the time is that there was some very creative deaths and some very creepy parts of this movie. One involving the Redeemer in his Shakespearean kind of Phantom of the Opera getup, dropping a sword onto the guy's head, and it's pretty gruesome. There's one very cruel, kind of bad taste death in this. I think that maybe if this were done now, it definitely wouldn't make the cut, but it's a very harsh scene in where there's no music in the background. It is just a camera on the Redeemer dressed as a clown, completely terrorizing this woman. Let's take a look. Yeah, that definitely wouldn't happen these days in film, especially with everyone being so sensitive and all. The film was distributed by Continental Video, and at the time, to compete with other video companies at the video stores, they were producing what are known as big boxes, which was their way to get customers' attention to their certain videos by having their boxes bigger than everyone else's. In most cases with these cheap horror movies, the video artwork is a lot better than the movie. Not in Continental Video's case. In this case, the movie is definitely better than the artwork, aside from the immaculate poster that it got for its theatrical release. There's a lot of iconic scenes in this film. Let me show you my favorite.
Oh, God.
T.G. Finkbinder was well remembered by the cast and crew years later. There's a lot of heartwarming stories about him on the set, helping everybody out, working out through the day, making everyone feel a lot better. I had the opportunity to talk to William Vernick, the writer of this film, whenever he was just a kid. And there's so many interesting stories, and I'm so glad that I finally got some closure on a lot of the bizarre aspects of this film. Let's take a listen to my interview with William Vernick, writer of The Redeemer, Son of Satan.
How did you hear about my film? Like, what? It's not exactly front and center anymore, you know.
Okay, well, interesting story there. I actually, years and years ago, neighbors of mine, actually the same neighbors that gave me my dog, this was a long time ago. They had an old VHS collection, and they had a lot of. I'm assuming they were on some sort of mailing list from Continental Video, and they had a lot of the big boxes, you know, like those big boxes.
I know which one that is. Yeah,
you know.
I had one of those.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they had the Class Reunion Massacre, also a few others from Continental Video.
Okay.
And I wound up keeping their collection after a while. And that one, I always held on to it, and I always made it a point to show all my friends.
Oh, okay.
And I got a copy on DVD a while back, and we would watch it all the time. It's one of my favorite horror movies. It stuck with me. You're right about it not being front and center. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know. Although there's there's a club that they contacted me. It's like an appreciation club on Facebook. Have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't.
For The Redeemer.
Specifically for
Yeah.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, they did an interview. The whole
hey,
thing.
well,
yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
Well, it's nice to know that. Yeah, it's nice to know. You know, I'm not the only one out there.
Well, it's really no, I mean it was. They're just nice people that happen to like a very strange film. You know.
Yeah, very strange indeed.
Yeah. So tell me, go ahead. I'll answer any questions you have, man.
Sure thing. First, I just wanted to thank you for doing this, for responding. It's really awesome you did. I'm a huge fan of this movie. Kind of starstruck to meet the guy who wrote it, and I can't wait to talk to you more about it.
Yeah, good. My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
Yeah. One thing, man. How did this come about? Was this like a script you had written, or did someone hire you for it, or what? Where did all this come?
No, it's a good question. Might as well get that over with. I was a film editor. I was 18, and it was my first job out of high school, and I just got it by just sheer luck, and I'd always wanted to do it. I'd always cut these the 8mm films, and this guy hired me based on a short film that I cut for a friend of mine, and I did the dailies. I synced up the dailies for this production company in Washington, D.C., and they shot a film called Teenage Graffiti, it was called, or something like that. And, I put the sound with the picture. Before video, they were, I don't know if you know a lot about, prehistoric film that I used to work in, but you used to have the soundtrack on one thing and the video on the other, and an editor had to put the things together. So it's going back a long way, I'll have you know. But anyway, so I got friendly with the producer over the phone because I was cutting his film. And essentially I said, you guys going to shoot another movie? And he said, yeah, we have a 2-picture deal with a distribution company. And I think it was Dimension at the time. And "Are you a writer as well as an editor?" And I said, "Yeah, actually." And of course, I had not really written very much at the time, but that afternoon I went home on the bus and I passed a deserted high school by the highway, right? And that's when the idea came to me that it would be sort of interesting to have a high school deserted and people would be invited to this class reunion without knowing that, of course, it was a fake. And so I wrote a 20-page treatment. I sent it down to him. And I got a call, I don't know, a couple of days later, and he said, "Can you come down on the weekend? Because we like it, and we want to talk to you about writing it." So I went down there, and, you know, the guy said to me, literally said that I should grow a beard because I looked like I was 15. And I said, "Well, I'm only 18, so I guess, I don't think I could grow a beard at that time, But anyway, so they had some ideas, which were okay. I don't think I took too many of them, but I then sort of pumped out it was like a 70, 80-page script. And they made a deal with me based on that. I had a lawyer and I wrote the script, and we, it wasn't for very much money, but I said I would like to cut the film. And they said okay, then they said not, because as it turned out, they hired a former editor to direct the movie, and he didn't want another editor messing with his work. So that was out. So I got a little bit more money out of it based on that. And then I wrote about 7, 8 drafts of the film based on their input and on the input of the distributor. And, it went from a straight film where they go to this high school, and it was just about, a guy killing 6 or 7 people, whatever it was. And then they said, let's make it sort of like this religious thing. I don't know if you've seen it recently, but there was this whole big thing about, this priest, and he became the Redeemer and all this other stuff. And that was mostly because the movie The Omen was pretty popular back then. And they wanted to do their movie like The Omen. Dimension did a lot of films that were kind of like other films, So basically, I rewrote the script based on, them wanting it to be more of a devil kind of movie and stuff. So then that's when they recalled it. They named it The Redeemer, and, but it was fine. It was actually not a bad experience. I mean, I got to write pretty much whatever I wanted. And, well, I went down there one more time for Location Scout, and the director was a real dickhead. He must have read in the book that you're not supposed to treat the writer very well, because he just was incredibly stupid. But the producers were kind of nice. They were okay. They knew that I didn't want to rewrite everything they wanted me to, but it was an okay experience, actually. I mean, the thing that they found was in Virginia. It was in Staunton, Virginia, about 3 hours south of Washington. And I think that the person who has that club, the Redeemer, the Facebook Redeemer Club, they live in Staunton, or they live near Staunton, so they've been there, and they got a rock out of the quarry that starts the movie. Nice. And stuff. I mean, they're really into the movie in a big way, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's
that's pretty much it. That's how the whole thing came about. I mean, I had never I'd written a couple of things before that, but nothing that I sold, and this one was the first one that I ever sold. So that's pretty much the whole story. It was a lot of luck that, I was cutting their movie and stuff, but it was, it was okay. It was an okay experience at that point,
Wow, man, that's amazing. I've always wondered how that went down.
Yeah, how that happened.
One thing, for a little clarification on my own, I've always kind of wondered. Sure. You say that it was studio input to do the whole devil and the whole religious angle. What about the two thumb thing?
Yeah.
And was the kid the Redeemer, or what was going on there? I know at the end they.
Well, you know what? I'm going to make a real confession for you, man. I have no idea who was the Redeemer. I think the priest was supposedly the Redeemer, and you know what I mean? It's like the writer doesn't have to know what's going on in his own movie, And it was a very strange situation. In fact, I asked them a couple times, why is that priest? Why is he doing that? What's his motivation? Stuff. And they said, no, let's just make it a devil cult film. And that's all they ever told me. And the other thing they did is they the producer drew an outline of his hand on the script. I still have it somewhere. And he added an extra finger. Like, I don't know if you remember, but there's like that extra sixth finger on the guy, you know, and he scratched himself with this dumb thing. And, you know, and I always wondered, like, what was that about? I had no idea. All I know was something that identified him. And the guy said, the producer said, well, why don't you look up, you know, about devils and stuff? And that's a big thing. It's the sixth finger. I looked up like everything I could. I found no six fingers anywhere. So I had no idea where this guy got it from. But the prop person did a pretty good job. It looks sort of like a real finger, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where it came. I don't know. Like I said, they did it because the marketing people wanted it to be a devil film, you know. What was interesting is I saw it when it first came out. My wife and I drove to Philadelphia to see it, right, from New York, and the audience, it was like this: the first 10 minutes of the movie, the audience was like dead silent. They didn't react to anything. Then we get to the high school, and they started yelling and screaming and throwing stuff around and stuff, and everybody's like, you know, hey, don't go in that room, all that shit, you know. And then in the last 10 minutes, where they explain everything, total quiet. The audience didn't react to a goddamn thing. Which says to me that the real film was right in the middle. It had nothing to do with the devil stuff. It was about six people go to a high school and they get knocked off. That's It was like, what was that movie? 10 Little Indians. You know. It was that kind of a movie where you didn't know who, you know, was doing it and stuff. You know, so that's what I thought about the devil stuff.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. I never thought of that. Huh. Yeah. Well, see, that's always been a thing that I've. You know, it's funny. I've always told myself I'm never going to find out.
I know. So. I always wondered about it too, man. I had no idea why. I mean, I always said to them, we should remake the movie. I was in touch with one of the guys not that long ago, maybe about 5 years ago, and they were talking. Maybe they could raise some money to redo it or something like that.
Oh, man.
And I said, let's just cut out all that devil shit because no one ever knew why it was there, you know. And he said, you know what, we would, because one of the producers, not the producer, but the executive producer said, I had no idea why we put it in. It made no sense. And the audiences that watched it, even the audience of the friend, you know, the actors and everyone else, they had no idea what was going on. They reacted the same way. First 10, 20 minutes, they had no idea what was going on. Then they get to the high school, they start screaming and yelling and stuff. They really were scared. Then in the last 10 minutes, they had no idea when he walks back into the lake and everything. It was totally confusing. No, not even the actors like that stuff. You know, I mean, I spoke to what's his name, Thinkbinder, and he always said it was interesting from an actor's point of view to do, you know, the priest and the killer because he tried to make them really different, and I think he did. He's a pretty good actor, actually.
He's a great actor.
But he said himself, he never knew how it was going to cut together, you know, like that stuff and everything else that we shot. And since I was with the editor when he was cutting it, I said to him, do you really think this works? And he says, it's got to work because the distributor says they won't release the film unless all the devil shit is in it. So he cut it in and it doesn't work. I mean, you know, that's sort of the whole thing, you know.
You know,
it's too bad
yeah. It really, I guess, like aesthetically, it doesn't work. You know, like you said, there's no no resolve. There's no questions are answered.
Some people thought it was anti-Catholic. You know.
Yeah.
It makes fun of the one shot that I asked John Beamer, the DP, to do was the Last Supper shot. I don't know if you remember. They're in the auditorium eating, and the camera pulls back, and it's like all of them sitting at a table, right?
Oh,
and
cool.
Sure enough, he lit it like the Last Supper. And I always said, that's the only shot that I asked for in the entire script. Because it was supposed to be like like his last night on Earth or something like that. And sure enough, it was everybody's last night on Earth. Because he killed everybody at the table. So I thought that was kind of nice. You know, he's, awesome. John Beamer was the DP for Law and Order, you know, the TV show. So he really made it big. So I see him pretty regularly as credited for various shoots and movies and stuff. So he was a nice guy, a really great guy too.
Wow, wow, such a cool story. That's amazing. It really didn't work, but in retrospect and in all honesty, if I may say, that bookend with the kid coming out of the water and then going back in, that is just so bizarre.
Yeah.
That I feel that
It was very
the
strange,
the whole
right?
thing made that movie really stick with me.
I mean, I don't know what it meant, man. I was surprised that because the kid's mother was there. I was told later, and the kid was freezing, and it was like 40 degrees that day when they shot it. You know.
Well, because without that weird, bizarre stuff in it, do you think it might have ran the risk of just being another, slasher or another? Because the thing that in this movie, people call it a slasher, but
people. Yeah,
essentially,
that's right.
Feedbinder, he plays about four different killers in this movie. Was that in your script? Was it?
No, he was supposed to be dressed up as like a hunter.
The priest character, I imagine. The whole
clown,
time, is it?
The marionette. Yeah, he was all the same guy. He was a very he was a very versatile actor that played the Redeemer. I mean, he could be anybody,
On the next episode of Staunch on Film, I start my 2-part interview with Leanne Curtis and her movies Girlfriend from Hell, Rock and Roll High School Forever, and a few others. See you then.